Hey guys, welcome. I'm Chantal, and this is Dr. Zach Levine, and this is Cooper. And the three of us are starting a podcast. We're starting a podcast. Yeah. It's going to be rough, I think. It's going to be a rough podcast.
No, it's going to be addictive. It's going to be like crack.
It's going to be like crack. I've never done crack, so I don't know how addictive it is, but maybe it's like...
Let me tell you something. It is. Whew, you are won't be able to get enough of it.
No, I get it. Just to set the stage for people that think because there's a doctor in the house, it's going to be very informative and serious. Have you ever heard? Is there a doctor in the house? Like, have you been somewhere and they've said like, and you're like, oh, I'm on vacation.
No, no, or maybe I've just ignored it.
Right. I mean, we're very qualified to start this podcast because you're a doctor and I have played doctor. So
yes, well, there you go.
So we decided let's start a podcast.
Yeah, well, I think we're as qualified as anyone else who makes podcasts.
Right, exactly. And
we have devices with cameras.
I mean, yeah.
We have faces and voices.
Right, and it's not just going to be information. It's going to be like rants and jokes.
Yes. I'm hoping for very little in the way of information, but I'm willing to share a bit.
Okay, good. Rants, jokes, and tears. I feel like that was the motto for my first marriage.
Well, my experience is that's the motto for all marriages, but I've only had one.
You've only had one, yeah. And you're still in it. She's behind you.
No, she's not behind me now, but I always feel like she's potentially behind me with, with the sword of Damocles.
I think that's a good way to live, to like always think that your spouse is standing behind you and that's how you have to behave.
I do feel that way.
Oh, okay.
Ever since I was insured, ever since I got my life insurance, my very large life insurance policy, I felt like she's always behind me. I better not slip up because I'm certainly worth more.
I get it.
You get it.
So there's this, let's start with coronavirus. Have you heard of it? Have you heard of this pandemic?
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
Give me a bit more. Coronavirus. That's the one that causes a cold.
It's something about the beer. Have you heard that Corona actually stopped producing beer because of?
Oh, no, what I had heard was that sales had gone down.
No, I heard they completely stopped production.
Why?
I don't know. I haven't Googled it. I just heard, and then I was too lazy to Google it.
That's good enough. That's as good a source of information as we're going to get for this podcast. So
I get it. Oh, I should be recording how long we're going too. Right?
I think it's been about 78 minutes so far.
It feels that way.
I think anyway, I would drink Corona beer.
You would?
I'm not afraid.
You're not afraid?
I'm not afraid.
I mean, I would drink it as long as it's on sale.
As long as it's on sale, really?
Because I'm from Winnipeg and we're notoriously a cheap people. So if there's not a coupon, we don't do it, But that was before even this pandemic happened.
Well, I'm Jewish and my people are not known for being interested in deals. So I
haven't heard that.
I wouldn't understand that at all. But I'll take your word for it as a Winnipeg. Yeah.
But seriously though, so you're on the front line. Has it been like when it first hit and nobody knew anything about it? Were you just thrown into the wolves to deal with it and you had no idea? Were you scared? Are you still scared? You've got 10 kids at home. I mean, how do you deal with it?
This is much scarier than anything I ever do in my professional life. Let me tell you. Was I scared? It depends what I read going into my shift. That's the honest truth. Like sometimes I would read about how certain places were just war zones. Emergency departments were lined with dying people in the halls and all the doctors and nurses were getting sick. And it was just, it's a pandemic. Once something is a pandemic, it's quite frightening. And we didn't know. We continue not to know as much as we wish we knew about it. But we know more, that's for sure. And I think, it's cliche, but knowledge is power. Knowledge and exposure, I think, make things a lot less scary.
Right.
We could go off on a tangent about racism, etc. just about, the more you know about other people and other diseases, the less scary and the less you hate them. I
Right.
feel like I hate COVID-19 a little bit less now,
Oh.
maybe, or at least I'm less scared of it, because so I've seen probably about 80 confirmed cases so far. And prior to going in, there was just a barrage of information. So we all just read a lot, but also our department, every department I think around the world has made massive changes. So we've made massive changes to where we have a cold/clean area and a hot/dirty area. And the dirty is where people with suspected or positive COVID go. And the cold/clean is where people who do not have it, who we're quite certain they don't have it, go. But that was a major reorientation of our emergency departments. And it's quite amazing when you have the political pressure and desire, what can get done. Because, we've been asking for certain renovations in our departments for years and years, and there have been promises. But I'll tell you, when this COVID thing happened and there was political pressure and the press was all over it, these changes were right away. There were people building walls in our emergency departments where walls were not there.
Wow.
So how's it been? We haven't been overwhelmed, and we've had a fair number of cases, but we've always, to this point at least, hopefully we don't get the big second wave that everyone's scared of, but to this point we've always had enough space for them, both in the emerge and in the ICU. And that's what all this social distancing has been about. It's about making sure that we have the resources so we don't end up having to make those choices. Who gets a ventilator? If you have 20 ventilators and you have 30 people who need to be intubated, then you have to decide who gets one. And that's what we didn't want to have to do. And that's what we haven't had to do thus far. So we've been fortunate in that sense. And the other thing is, like I said, I've seen a fair number and I've gotten some perspective. Some people get extremely sick, no question. But you also, in the course of seeing, I saw maybe 80 positive, but I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases, not necessarily COVID, but people who thought they have COVID, people who are concerned. And a lot of people with COVID, as people know, are fine. They do fine. Either they're asymptomatic or they have like a mild cold or even they have a flu, but they can just go home the same day.
Yeah,
and we know the majority.
My boyfriend had it, and he got it when he came back from Europe, and it had just a light cough, like a cough in the mornings, like as if you wake up and you're like, and then you go on with your day. And I told him he got tested, and he was tested, but that was right at the beginning. That was like the 16th of March, and they told him, they said, we'll call you back in 24 to 48 hours. 10 days later, we still hadn't gotten a call. So we called back again, and they said, oh yeah, you had it. We're just so overrun. We didn't have anyone to call you to tell you that. So it's a good thing you were hiding out, Otherwise we could have given it to, I don't even know if I've had it. That's the other thing.
That's the problem. You probably have. I'm just guessing. I'm saying that a bit facetiously, but part of me thinks that I have too. I've had, prior to all this, I had some symptoms. I had traveled a bit prior to the whole pandemic. And because, they've been studying how many people, here we're not testing everyone. It's part of the problem. We test the sick, which is the most important because that way we can contact trace and we can keep them isolated from other people. But in terms of treatment, it doesn't, if you're not sick, it doesn't matter that much if you have it, but we don't have a great idea of how many people have it. And we know from studies that up to, the range is insane. It's like, if you look at the studies, it's like between 5 and 80%. One study they did in the Norway area was like about 50% asymptomatic. But you imagine if 50% of people are asymptomatic, but are still spreading it, then who knows how many of us have had it. And I've certainly been in a lot of contact with it. So if I have had it, then I wasn't very symptomatic. And I do now. The one thing I have to say, the big change at work is that before I see any patient, I wear at least a mask and gloves. I never used to do that. And if they have any symptoms that are concerning, I wear the full mask, gloves, with also the visor and the whole gown.
The hazmat suit, basically.
The whole suit, yeah. Not the whole hazmat. It doesn't have its own breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
And we also don't wear N95s. At first, we thought we needed those N95 masks, which you actually get tested. They're fit tested on your face to make sure you can't inhale with this awful smelling stuff. and you have to go in a room and see if you can smell it with this. And if you can't smell it, it means you have a good seal. But anyway, those are the special masks, and those are the masks that are, more limited. And we only use them now if we're doing something that generates an aerosol. So if I'm going to intubate someone, or if there's going to be CPR, chest compressions on someone. But in general, I almost never, it's usually just the paper masks, the surgical masks. I almost never wear N95 anymore. That's a change. Everything's evolving as we learn more.
Well, everything's evolving. Like at first they said, nobody wear a mask, you're going to get it more because you're going to be touching your face, you're going to be touching your eyes. And now, every press conference, they're wearing the mask and they're saying, don't leave the house without a mask. Like, is that because they wanted to save all the masks at the beginning for the frontline workers, or because they didn't quite know, they evaluated the risk and now they're saying like, it's riskier not to have a mask? Like, what do you think?
I think part of it was trying to save. I think there was always, and there remains some concern that we're going to run out of supplies. And the other was the concern that people are going to use them improperly, and that they actually can cause more harm than good if people feel falsely reassured that they're wearing a mask.
Right.
But the bottom line is, they're certainly not harmful. There's certainly no harm in wearing a mask. I have to be honest, I'm not used to a society where people wear masks all the time.
No, I don't think any of us are used to a society in North America where people wear masks all the time.
No, right. But now you go to stores and you see a fair number of people wearing them, and I'm still not doing it. Maybe I should be. I'm not yet comfortable with it, and I'm also not yet worried enough about it. And maybe that's too selfish a way to look at it, but I'm not worried enough about myself or about my loved ones from what I've seen that I think it's necessary. And also, I think I don't have it, or if I do, I guess I'm not worried enough about it.
Right.
But you go to the grocery store now, there's at least half the people in some grocery stores are wearing them. It's a different world, and maybe it's going to become normal. But it's kind of sad, I think, like seeing people like that. If you end up in a workplace and everyone's wearing a mask, I mean, that's a big change to our world. There's something very human about seeing someone's face and seeing their entire face and their facial expressions, and losing that is a major thing. But obviously, if that's what we need to do to protect the vulnerable, then fine, let's do it.
But you do wonder what kind of repercussions this is going to have. Like, I went for a run around the park in downtown Montreal, and there were two guys. They were walking. They had an umbrella because it was starting to drizzle. And as I ran by, they pointed their umbrella at me, like, wow. I guess to stop me from breathing on them as I ran by, like a giant human shield. And at the time, I was both insulted, but I was also like, that's freaking genius. Like, it's like a giant mask, But like,
yeah. Wow, that's I thought you were going to say it was like, was it the Penguin? He used to have a Penguin, or the Joker, who used to have an umbrella that he would point and he could shoot at people.
I mean,
so I thought they were going to actually.
Like, if I would have coughed on them, they would have shot the dagger out of the umbrella at me. I don't think that was going to happen.
And I hope you're not taking it personally. I'm sure it's not because you look like a COVID carrier necessarily, It's
just, it's interesting. Like,
not you.
It's not me.
It's not you.
I get that.
It's them.
But is this going to be a thing that continues forever? Like, are people never going to look people in the face and nod? Like, jogging, you're a jogger. You just went for a run, right? Your hair is still in the sweat mode.
No, I watched it for you.
But
it looks the same. You're right. And like I said, you don't have to, well, because this is recorded, you have to look a certain way, but you don't have to smell a certain way for a podcast.
No, not yet. Not until smell-o-vision comes into place, and then you're in trouble. But like, jogging code is you nod at somebody or give them a little, and now
I like that.
Away. Like, I find even now in the grocery stores, when I see somebody coming, I turn the other way, and like, I'm good with people, and I can't even look at somebody in the aisle anymore.
Really? Well, at the grocery store near here, they have arrows. So you're supposed to go in one direction. Like, I was actually curious about you, and actually I'm antisocial too. So in general, my natural response to seeing someone is to turn away. So that's easy for me. But I was wondering, because you're up north right now,
yeah.
And like, if you go to a store there, do they resent? Like, you're not a local. So I'm just wondering, do they think, oh, here's this person from Montreal who's bringing up COVID? There's a lot of places, I hear the Parisians, like, brought their COVID to the townships and whatnot. So I don't know. Do you get stares in stores?
Yeah, I mean, up where I am in St. Adolphe, it's not so small that everybody knows everybody, but I
Yeah.
do get the impression that we're not necessarily welcome if they knew we were from here. Like my boyfriend has a driver's license from out of town, and we did the thing where they drop your groceries in the trunk, but you still have to show your license to the grocery store. And they were like, you're not supposed to be here. Like you're like
Really?
straight up on a lecture. And this is us doing the right thing of staying in our car and showing the driver's license through the window. They told us to roll it down, and we're like, you are bringing it up here.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, you have a car where you roll down the window still?
We spent all our money on the house, so we had to go back to get a car that we actually have to push the car like Fred Flintstone.
I don't think they make those anymore.
Life's all about compromise.
And the other question is, was it hard when you realized they're not looking at you because you're, number one, either a blonde bombshell or a celebrity, but because you're like an outsider who's bringing disease?
Yeah, I have felt, I've never felt like that before. They didn't want me, it's like,
Typhoid Mary.
it's like, yes.
Typhoid
Like,
Marie.
what?
Typhoid Marie.
Oh,
In
yes.
Quebec.
Like that.
Yeah. You're the vector.
Like the
I'm sorry to say.
Well, now I know what it's like to feel like that, and I felt like that. But it is true. Like we had and now that we had a friend come up for the weekend last weekend, just for the day, and come and like hang out on our dock and whatever. But we found that neighbors, even though you're allowed to have up to 3 households outside, I found some of our neighbors were like giving us a look. I felt judged because we from Montreal come up here.
Maybe should there be some kind of a symbol you wear?
And it says like what?
Like a scarlet letter or something, just like when you go in town, that indicates that you're an outsider and potentially a vector. People say.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale. Like how, did you watch that show?
No, but I want to read it.
Who's that?
That was my daughter.
That's one
there's no privacy here. Like you said, I have 9 kids, and school is from home now.
Right.
So
that must be fun for you.
There's no privacy.
No.
It has its moments.
It
has its moments. Yes, it's easier.
Let's say you did have it, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Can you still get it again? Like my boyfriend had it, and now can he walk around like invincible now, or is there a chance that it's changing and he can get a new version of it and then he can give that to somebody? Like how reckless can you be if you have had it, and why haven't you been tested? That's another question.
Like, is he a superhero? Is that what you're asking? Is he now immune and able to walk through walls?
If you ask him, he walks around with a cape, and it's very embarrassing. When it's not theme night, I'm like, take the cape off, Superman.
I hate to bring this up, but it just made me think of, do you remember who the caped person in Seinfeld was? It was Larry David. Larry David made a cameo as a guy who wore a cape.
Really?
A lawyer. He didn't speak in it, but he wore a cape. Anyway, sorry, it just made me think.
Sorry? You want to know a secret?
Yes, please.
Just between you and I and everybody watching, I have never seen Seinfeld.
Oh my God. Did you grow up in a cave or in Winnipeg or something?
When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons. So that was a thing. I could have underage parties, underage drinking at my house. But if my mom heard The Simpsons on TV, everybody had to pack up their stuff and get out.
Wow.
And because of that, I don't know how that relates to Seinfeld. They both start with S. But I think Seinfeld was on around the same time as The Simpsons, and I just never got into it.
It really it really affected it stunted your worldview, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I know, some of the characters. I know the Elaine, I know the Soup Nazi, but like I don't really.
You have heard of it.
I've seen clips on the YouTube.
It was a thing for a while anyway. Maybe it's a generational thing. It was my,
No.
I'm a bit old.
I'm not that much younger than you.
So
I watched it. I have no excuse. If only I had time, like during a thing like a pandemic, to watch it. But
it's too late now. It's not. You can't find it anymore.
Really?
There's nothing. There's nothing on TV anymore. There's no. There's like. We came to this through The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, The Handmaid's
Tale. Anyway, I haven't read it.
Or have you not watched it? Or read it, I guess. But like now, why read something when they can just spoon feed you on TV? You know.
That's my motto generally.
What do you think, as somebody who's got kids that are just hanging out in the background, that I see a cute face that keeps popping in and out?
Oh, really?
What do you think about?
I just ignore them. See if they go away.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's called free-range parenting, and you just, once they're born, you just ignore them.
No.
And they really learn independence. By the way, I realized I never answered your other question about immunity.
Off track. I like it though.
Sorry, it's my fault. Are you immune? The problem is we don't know. I mean, generally we gain immunity to infections. And so I like to think so. And based on most colds and other viral infections, you gain some immunity. Problem is we don't know how long it lasts. And the problem is we don't know how much coronavirus is mutating. So the concern is that the immunity is not robust and not fantastic. And that's part of the reason why, we aren't relying on the herd immunity so much. But, I have to say, like, based on most diseases, yes, I think there probably is some immunity, and the odds that you get it again are slim, at least in the near term. I was happy to learn recently, actually, and something else you said, by the way, I have been tested only because there was a small outbreak of some staff at one of the hospitals where I work. I think I'm not supposed to say the name. And I was happily negative, and it's quite uncomfortable, the test, although not as bad as I thought. I thought it was really torture, but.
What's the move again? The Q-tip in the nose up to your brain?
Yeah, the Q-tip in the nose, and it has to go like, I don't know how, this is what, 12 inches? So it has to go about, no, seriously, this is like 5 inches. And I'm thinking.
I don't know what your idea of 5 inches is, but if this was 5 inches.
This is the joke, right? Why women aren't good with measurements, because men always say this is 12 inches.
Oh, I get it. It's funny.
All right. No, it goes pretty far, and it's quite uncomfortable, and you have to keep it in there. Now, we were taught for 10 seconds, like rotating it around, but now more recently I've heard it's supposed to be more like 20 or 30 seconds. So the jury is out. And as you know, as we talked about, the test is not fantastic. So there is a significant false negative rate, meaning up to 30%, like 10 to 30% false negative, meaning you get a negative test, but you do have it. So, and if in the hospital, if you have typical symptoms, right now we are not relying on the first test. If you have typical symptoms, we do a second test before we say, okay, it's probably negative, because there's significant false negative rate. And that's one of the reasons, one of a number of reasons why we don't have a great idea of how many people have it, because a lot of people don't have symptoms, and those who get tested may be falsely negative. So, who knows? Well, anyway, I like to think that the more.
We have enough tests, we can test everybody.
I don't know. Do we have? Do we have enough?
When is this going to happen? Like, when are we going to be able to, like, ever? Is it even going to happen, or is it going to be a vaccine that comes first, because we're never going to get enough tests?
I think we may have enough tests at some point. I don't know, but also, some people are getting tested. I know some people have been tested 5-6 times. So, so that means, we don't have enough. I doubt we have enough tests to test the entire population 5 or 6 times. It's a huge undertaking to test every single person in a province and to track them. However, that would give us a lot more information. If they could actually do it systematically, that would be really interesting, because right now the numbers we have, the numbers in the media they're relatively meaningless. This many people have it and this many people died. Well, you're only testing people who are sick. So of course your death rate is much, much higher than if you were testing all the asymptomatic people who have it. It's much scarier, the numbers that we have. But in terms of treatment, the testing doesn't matter that much. It's really from a population perspective, because treatment is, if you have a mild disease, the treatment is conservative. It's like a cold or the flu. For the most part, we don't treat them. So it's only the hospitalized patients who we really need to know, because treatment is more specialized. And even that, though, as you probably know, is really evolving. We've changed. It used to be early intubation, the tube that goes in to breathe for people. And now we're doing that later and later because it seems to be not helpful, if not harmful, to intubate people early. It's hard to get them off the ventilator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's change. Change is here.
Changes.
Change is constant.
When do you think a vaccine is going to come? Like, when is this, is it, it just seems so gloom and doom that, the soonest could be spring or summer. And then, how do you then start giving it out to, millions and millions of people? Like, is it a 2-year period before this goes away?
Well, so how long, I'm not a basic scientist, so I have to base my,
the smartest one.
What?
You're just as smart as a basic scientist.
We can say that. I play one on this podcast. So how long, based on everyone I speak to who are actually real scientists, yeah, we're looking at another year, maybe a bit sooner, but it's not like, next spring maybe sort of thing. Because the thing is, you read reports and it's like, oh, we're testing a new vaccine. So it does sound like it's just around the corner. But then when you talk to people, scientists, they're like, no. There's many different phases it has to go through. So anyway, it's going to be a while. And you're asking when we're going to go. Is the question like when we're going to go back to normal?
Well, it's just like, if it's going to be another year plus, what do we do with the kids and the old people in the meantime? Like, are you going to keep your kids home in your house for the next year? Like, are we going to keep grandma and grandpa and even our parents? My mom's in her 70s, even though she'll tell you she's 65. And, like, she's in Winnipeg, and she's saying that because there they have very few cases, she's talking about going to the hairdresser and going to the shopping center and going to have a drink with her friends. And she's high risk. Like, she's got asthma. She's like, I'm like, you should stay home. Yeah. But how do you tell these people? It's important.
Does no one leave or come to Winnipeg? Is that why their cases are so low? Does no one visit?
Most people leave Winnipeg, I think, is the thing. It's just the population gets lower and lower because we all come to Montreal.
But no one comes back.
It's like a one-way boomerang. Like, I guess that's just throwing a stick.
So number one, for me, just personally, yes, I would send my kids to school. I would have sent them to school the entire time, because from what now early on, we didn't really know. So, but what it does seem like is that kids do not get particularly sick from it. And even more importantly, from a public health perspective, is it seems like they don't spread it that much either. We all, or at least me, a lot of us felt like kids are cesspools, like daycares. And we know daycares are certainly cesspools of viruses, right? Mm-hmm. And to a certain extent, we all kind of accept that. It's like, well, they're going to catch viruses. That's how they gain immunity. That's how, you can't keep them in a bubble. And in some ways, it's healthier not to. So more and more information has come out that indicates that it's not a big deal for kids. They're not getting very sick. There are some rare cases of kids getting sick, and there is they have been talking about this inflammatory syndrome that's sort of like Kawasaki disease, but it's still quite uncommon. So anyway, for me, I think the damage to kids of not socializing, of not doing their sports, of not, and especially, let's face it, especially kids who have less resources, whose parents aren't around, who don't have a computer, so they can't, number one, get lessons on their computer, number one, communicate with their friends on a computer. Those are the kids don't have a pool, whatever, and it's the same with older people. Those people with less means and less resources are getting hit much harder. And so for me, when talking about the kids, I would send them back to school today. I would have sent them back to school weeks ago. I think it's not right, but kids don't have a vote, and it's very easy to control kids and keep them home. And to a certain extent, I think society was very worried about having kids out there mixing with each other and then seeing their grandparents. From the old person's perspective, I feel really badly about that too. And again, it's worse for the poor old who are institutionalized, who essentially are kept in their rooms, all the time. I mean, how awful is that? If you're an older person, you've worked your entire life, and now you can't leave. And who knows, you might be quite old, quite sick. you might not have that much time left and you're not able to see anyone, and you don't even have a choice, right? It's not like if you're in an institution, it's not like you're an 85-year-old with your own home and you can say, well, you know what, it's worth it for me to go for a walk, even if there's some risk, I don't have that much time left. No, you're in an institution and there's like almost like a guard outside your room and you are not getting out of that room. So to me, that's terrible. There has to be some autonomy. And the other thing that I think is worth saying is some people do die from it. It's terrible, but it's not like Ebola. It's not a 90% death rate, right? In the highest group, what I've read is about a 15% death rate. Now that's still too high, and that's still a lot of people who die, but it's not, it's not, you're going to catch it and you're going to die for sure if you're 80, you may not. And we're seeing more and more stories in the news about an 100-year-old who beat COVID. Right. So it does happen. Anyway, that's my little rant.
Would you say for old people, just, it's your life? Like if you want to, be careful and go for a walk and wear a mask because you might not have that much time left anyways, like don't sit and wait a year inside. Like I really would like to know what to tell my mom and, her boyfriend. Like my first reaction was just stay home, don't talk to anybody. I'll call you in next March and then we'll
Right. The first thing you have to do is know what your local laws are. So I don't want to get in trouble. I actually went on the radio about a month ago, and someone called in and they're like, well, can my son push me in my wheelchair? And he doesn't live with me. And my first thing was, my answer was yes. And it was wrong. The rules were if you are not in the same household, you have to be 2 meters, 6 feet apart. So anyway, so you have to know the rules, and I'm not a lawyer or a politician. I don't know, so what do I think? If it's allowed to go out and go for a walk, yes, absolutely. There's a lot being lost from being stuck inside all the time. And going for a walk on your own or with someone from your household is not a dangerous thing to do. If you see people, one thing I have noticed, we talk about going for runs, people separate. You're walking on the sidewalk. If I'm running, I don't really do it for me, honestly. But yes, I do it for everyone else. I do it for their comfort for the most part. I will cross to the other side of the street. I'm panting and maybe I'm aerosolizing more than someone who's just walking. So I'm considerate in that way. And people do separate. So I would say, yeah, get out there. Now, it's a bit different going to the hairdresser, right? If you're going to go to the hairdresser, certainly you have to decide also, she has to decide her own personal comfort with, if she could get infected, like, is she willing to take that risk? And I don't have a number, like the risk is 10%. I don't have a number, but she can wear a mask, she can wear gloves.
Right.
It's not, it's not something that you just, you're not just going to walk down the street and catch it. You do have to get it in through your mouth, your nose, your eyes, or you have to get it on your hands and then touch your mouth, your nose, your eyes, or someone has to cough on you or sneeze on you or something like that. It's not like
you're breathing over top of you. Like I feel like maybe that she should probably just not get a haircut for a little while.
Yeah, breathing over top of her. Yeah, now if she and the hairdresser are wearing masks, maybe. That's something.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't, actually it wasn't even open here until June 1st. I don't even know if it's open on the island of Montreal yet, hairdressers. And
I can tell.
I think everything's delayed here.
Right.
But yeah, she has to choose what's really important to her. I think going out and seeing people from 6 feet away and getting some fresh air is very important, personally.
Right. Yeah.
So I think she should do that. But for other things, she has to decide, is that important enough to potentially catch something that could potentially make her very sick?
Exactly.
Like, she's a big girl, we have to give some people some autonomy. She's.
You call my mom fat?
No, she's big boned, as we say.
She's big boned. And what about like letting people use your bathroom? Like I went to my best friend's place, and she's like, we're just starting to go out, have a coffee on my balcony, and we'll catch up because I've been very paranoid. I haven't really left my house much in the 6 weeks or whatever. So we go, we have a coffee, it's lovely, from 6 feet apart. And then I'm like, oh, do you mind if I use your bathroom before I go? And she kind of looks at me and she's like, actually, my husband and I aren't letting anyone in the house. And I'm like, we've been best friends since we were 12. Like, I will wash my hands after. And she's like, I can't. So she
Wow.
turned around and I peed in her flower bed. She had it coming, and it's like,
That'll learn her.
yeah,
Just
like,
wait, and then she's gonna smell the flowers, and then boom.
sucker. Is
I don't
that
think.
paranoid?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's a bit crazy. And if you want to use my bathroom, we have a very nice outhouse just on the side that you can use. No, I think that's over the top. I'm not sure what specifically she's worried about, right? It's not transmitted generally via toilet seats,
Right,
right?
butt to
In
butt.
fact, nothing is, right? One of my favorite Quebec, I don't know what you call them, old wives' tale. Are you allowed to call something an old wives' tale?
Yeah.
Anyway, one of my favorite Quebec beliefs is it's not so much in Montreal. I used to work in Ormstown, so it's sort of a smaller town, and everyone would come in and tell me, I think I have a urinary tract infection. I sat on a cold toilet seat. And
Whoa.
at first I was like, what is the relation there? But anyway, that's a thing. That and eau javel,
And what?
bleach, eau javel, like bleach and water. They think that cures everything. So they
Oh.
use it for everything. I love it. But anyway, a cold toilet seat.
You can catch something from toilet seats, can't you? Like when you were a kid, you were told not to sit on the toilet because if somebody had crabs, they could jump on you or something. You get crabs from a toilet. In Winnipeg, that's what we were told. I still hover on public toilets to this day. Like, I hold the side of the stall because I'm afraid of catching crabs.
Well, I think it is disgusting when you think about sitting on a toilet seat where someone may have. I think it's more like the most common thing is people urinate on the toilet seat, right? I mean,
It stays
and
there. People are afraid of sitting on pee.
yeah, it's a bit gross, but it's not like dangerous. And for the most part, urine is sterile, right? There's no bacteria. You're not supposed to have any bacteria in your urine at all. If you do, it's called a urinary tract infection. So in general, you're not catching anything. Crabs, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I think it's very, very
Crabs. That was like,
rare.
did not go out in the 90s. Like,
Crabs is what? It's scabies? Is that what crabs are? I think it's scabies, right?
no, I don't even know.
It's a bug. We used to have great names. Remember the clap?
The clap.
The clap. I think it's chlamydia. Maybe it's gonorrhea. We don't really use it anymore, but that was a great name, eh? The clap.
Also, the clap was a lamp that I had in the 90s where you could clap and it would turn on.
That was the clapper.
Yeah. Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
A little bit different. Anyway, I don't think there's any reason to restrict use of bathroom. If there's concern, it's past. It can get on our hands and get on our face. So wash surfaces. I mean, so that's a bit nutty. Let's face it. But people, people are nutty. And people are extreme. What I don't like, honestly, is the people who are super judgmental and are like ready to call the authorities at the drop. Oh, I see two young people speaking closer than 6 feet, and I mean, holy cow! Like we live
That's a
in a
scary society if we get into, ratting out our neighbors, and like a hotline, snitch line.
yeah. Is there a snitch? I feel like that's actually a thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it does make you think of terrible times in our history. When people were I don't know, have to get into it, but yeah, when people were calling the authorities because the wrong sorts of people were being hidden by their neighbors and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast, Zach.
Yes, that'll be our historical podcast.
Yeah, that'll be Tuesdays. So let's wrap things up here then, because I really like what we've done here. We're leaving the people wanting more.
Oh my God, I want more. I'm addicted. I can't believe you want to wrap it up.
I'd like to wrap things up though every week with a subject that's close to my heart that I've always wondered about.
Yes.
What kind of things do people come in with that they've had stuck up their nether regions?
This is what keeps you up at night, eh?
These are the things I think about. Like, I've heard, but it might have been old wives' tale. I've heard magical things like a light bulb.
I haven't seen hundreds. I've seen maximum dozens of things stuck up that particular orifice. And as you know, people.
I want one today. I don't want you to give all of the dozens today.
That's true, because we have many more.
Many
But
more.
I mean, before I say it, keep in mind, people stick things in every orifice, right? Like, it's mainly kids who stick things in their ears and noses that have to be pulled out. Sorry?
Like Lego, I think.
Lego, little round things. Yeah, absolutely. So, and then other ones also, which we don't have to get into now. But in terms of, we're talking rectum here. That's right.
That's
so
the one. Yeah.
the first one the one that comes to mind always is the first one I saw many years ago, where the person said that his friend had given him a prostate checker, a self prostate checker. So he was trying to use it, because who doesn't believe in prostate health? Who among us, right?
Especially a prostate checker that can be done at home. I mean, it sounds amazing.
That's fantastic. But anyway, he stuck it up a bit too far, apparently, and he couldn't get it out. So he came in for a bit of help. And so that was a sex toy. That was, I'm gonna say dildo, but it was actually quite short. So to my mind, maybe it wasn't, but it was some sort of stimulating device for the rectum.
I know I call my dildos prostate checkers as well, so I can see how he gets them. It's my favorite brand. It's a brand that I get on Amazon.
I don't know. I think when you go into the emerge, you should use something else. I think you could come up with something a bit more believable in your case, but
I will remember that the next time I have to go to emergency. And I think we'll call it a day for now. This has been great. It's been good for you.
Oh my God. I'm going to have a cigarette. This has been fantastic.
I get it. I'm going to take up smoking.
Oh, it's been fun. It's been more fun than most discussions with the media.
I will take that the bar was set very low, and and we'll pick it up next week.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Dr. Zach Levine and Chantal and my puppy Cooper, who had no part in this podcast except for napping.
Oh, Cooper.
He's important. All right. Bye, guys.